Blessed by Bundy, blah, blah, blah.
Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living the dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems. Stopping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up. Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've go there when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink. I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Car era lore. Call me Levi playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one. I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. Sipping on some rock and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck started is a off with a bit. Now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living the dream.
GM, drop us a GM in the chat down below. Go give us some love on the space. It's linked up above to the right. Go hit that like, the repost, the bookmarks. All are appreciated. We'll get rolling here in about 30 to 60 seconds.
Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like the Browns. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. Refuse not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they local. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum entities. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I gotta shout out the off with a bit. Now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living the dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems. Topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up. Breaking them all to choose one. But they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in suits. Yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, mighty, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. Had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. So I had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the ride with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
This episode is brought to you by DGen Network, the only community-based Web3 media network, bringing you the very best content in the NFT and cryptocurrency space. Please visit dgen.network and check out our other great shows. That's DGen, DGEN.network.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain. GM. Happy Wednesday. May 22nd already. Steve, it's my oldest birthday. Celebrating that a little bit today. She's getting ready to head out of town. So just a quick hello here during the show as she heads to the airport. But another eventful day in Web3. Congratulations on the ApeFest ticket claim. Got to get a quick shout out in to Fonz and team, Token Proof, and the Yuga team. It was a silky smooth claim process. Didn't see any complaints in the timeline. Really looking forward to seeing everyone in Lisbon. And also on that topic real quick in the opening here, looking forward to seeing our newest members at Welcome Wednesday this evening, 5 p.m. Eastern. That space is linked up above as well. If you'd like to join us, you can listen in. You don't even have to be an ape. But if you've recently picked up an ape or mutant, we'd love to officially welcome you and get to know more about yourself. A few good meetings. Steve and I, we've traded a few texts and DMs. By the way, this is Cap, joined by my co-host, Steve. We'll be talking a little bit of markets this morning. Never any financial advice. Entertainment purposes only on this show. Crypto is risky. NFTs are risky. Do your own research and don't play with money you can't afford to lose. That said, feeling like it might be ETH ETF day. If not today, certainly tomorrow. It's 5 or 6 of providers. Their listings are live. Steve, we are on the footsteps here. I saw also a tweet or a post, someone saying, I'm just paraphrasing here, it's not about the money, it's about sending a message. I shared something in the War Room this morning from DC Investor. I agree. I think this is going to be a massive catalyst for building on-chain. Like, I don't know what it's going to do financially for ETH in the short term following the news. Like maybe it pumps, maybe it's priced in already, and that's the pump we already got, and it pulls back. I don't know. I'm not that smart. But what I feel extremely confident about is that this will attract more builders, starting with the institutions. You know, it's the DC investor tweet I was referencing mentions BlackRock specifically, and having the team basically working through the weekend, Memorial Day holiday on Monday, and coming up with these new campaigns, highlighting RWAs and more. All this building on chain, I do feel pretty strongly that the next big wave happens on ETH. I think it'll spread into these L2s we've been talking about. But GM Sir, lengthy monologue to kick things off. How you doing today?
Doing well. Only took you 644 shows, and you have stuck the landing on the intro. Best intro yet. 644 in, we are absolutely riding. And I actually, I have a very, similar perspective to you. I mean, yesterday when we were talking about this whole thing, the first thing I said, by the way, give us a like, a retweet, a comment down below, a GM. We do read those as much as we can and try to get them in when people have comments in the chat. GM, I see you, Riggs, Dobbins, all our good friends out there in the chat, hitting us with the GMs, hitting with the bookmarks, Von Frunton, Aspiring Nobody Circles, always here every day, hitting us with those GMs. Like, comment, retweet. It is very hard to find spaces lately, so giving us that love helps. I mentioned this yesterday when we were talking about it in passing, which is like, wait till people find out what ETH does. And it's like fun seeing like others have like similar takes, so I know that I'm not completely crazy in what I have, especially really, big brain gigabrains like DC Investor, where it's like, again, like Bitcoin clearly a commodity. Like we mentioned it yesterday. It's fixed supply, have to mine it, the way it was distributed, everything, about Bitcoin, it's commodity. And it's like almost like when we're talking about like when we build stuff on top of it, it's like using gold to make things, right? Ethereum, I immediately was like, wait until people find out what the Ethereum blockchain does. And I think that idea of the ETH ETF being a catalyst is really interesting and like is way better articulated than I said yesterday, which was like, people are going to be like this. It's almost like I had this conversation sometimes with a group that I'm consulting with right now, Devour, that's working on some really, really cool tech related to food and video games, and some using the blockchain as sort of an underlying technology. They're working on some really cool tech. And I was talking to them, and one of the things that you find that I have found with friends, family, etc., is this, if I explain to them, imagine that you have a ticket and your ticket, gets you entry to the game, but then suddenly you get a pop-up on your phone because your ticket's connected to a whole series of networks that you've won an upgrade in a seat, and you're going to get a game-worn jersey by the player. Oh, and by the way, afterwards, the bar lets you into a special section for owning that ticket, and you get a free appetizer because they want to be the official bar of the fans of your team. And then afterwards, a few, at the end of the season, because you went to every single game, the team says, oh, you had all 7 season tickets? Just press this button and you can claim this free sweatshirt that shows that you are a loyal fan. And I give examples like this, and people are like, that sounds fucking awesome. And then I'm like, and it's an NFT, and they're like, scam? I'm like, it's built on the blockchain. Bullshit, it's crypto. It's just a giant Ponzi. And it's like, you just put the words crypto, NFT, and blockchain in it, and people go crazy. But when you explain what the blockchain does in a practical manner, everybody looks at you and says, that is amazing technology. And I think at some point we're going to flip over the chasm, especially with the ETH ETF, where people are like, and people are basically going to see what I saw in 2017 when I got so excited and told my team that I was more excited about Ethereum than Bitcoin, which I know is like sort of a contradiction because Bitcoin's the granddaddy of them all, first blockchain. I've been wrong. It is 3.5x the market cap, etc. But like, I was more excited because of smart contracts. And I didn't even know how to articulate exactly what they do, but I knew that it was a better system. And I think like this ETF coming through gives that opportunity. So I don't know, we're giving away all the best stuff in the cold open, but that's, good for the loyalists versus waiting through, Cap. But I think you're right. And I think DC Investor's right.
Yeah, I'll read the post for anyone listening in and doesn't have the visual. He says, don't worry, this man is not going, and there's a picture of Larry Fink of BlackRock. He says, don't worry, this man is not going to craft the market narrative for ETH in an ETH ETF world based on a bunch of cringe stuff from crypto Twitter. He has a team of analysts working around the clock right now with instructions to skip the Memorial Day holiday weekend until it's done. He told them to consider real world asset tokenization platform, RWAs, quote unquote, the new internet for financial apps and digital assets, neutral settlement layer for global digital finance, decentralized finance with low cost and transparency, and lastly, the green blockchain. I don't know what they'll come up with, but I'm sure as hell eager to see it. And I agree. I think we are going to see a whole new wave of campaigns from not just campaigns, but the media tour, just like we saw from Larry Fink and others when the Bitcoin ETF went live. We're going to see the same thing here with the ETH ETF, presuming it goes through and gets approved. I think at this point I haven't looked at the updated odds, but it would be maybe we don't even put that out into the universe, but what is the reaction? What happens to the market if it I see this as ETH's down $100 on the day. What happens to the market if it gets denied at this point? To Goblin Town we go, or do we want to even address that take?
I mean, I think it retraces quite a bit, but I'm not overly concerned about that. Honestly, I would continue to stack because clearly it's something that has long-term interest, but I don't think it. I mean, I don't know if it gets approved or denied this week. I'm not even paying attention to that. I'm playing the long-term game, and I think there's a couple of things here. So there's the first point we were making, which is wait till people find out what ETH does, and then you'll start to see a lot more interest in it, and this is going to open up the floodgates if it's out there. Go ahead, Cap.
And yeah, just to finish the thought, that's when I think they find out. When it gets approved, when we see the media tour from Larry and others, that's they're not going to be talking about ETH as digital gold. They're going to be talking about this worldwide global decentralized supercomputer and all that it does. And oh, by the way, it's a deflationary asset. There's I think TradFi is going to get giddy when they really start to understand the fundamentals and the revenues and the profits that Ethereum generates.
Yeah, we got Jeremy in the war room. Jeremy knows out here. Jeremy knows the friends. ETH could retrace, but it rips either way, approve or deny. So basically, ETH could use a retrace, but he thinks it rips either way, approve or deny. I honestly think there's the two actions of that. So to your point, that's a great point. When Larry Fink and everybody does this media tour, they don't have to have this conversation about again, to your point, digital gold and explain it. And people are like, why do we need digital gold? Which is actually a headier concept. Again, digital gold is a headier concept than your ticket to your, sporting event becoming a flexible brand asset. I actually think, oddly, as complicated as Ethereum is, again, I'll say it again. When you explain what the thing does, when you explain what an Ethereum token can do, when you explain about a ticket entry, about credentials, about, you show up for work one day and your work badge, your phone, you scan it to get you into the building because you have this thing that issued digitally instead of a physical card, get you into the building every day, get you discounts at local restaurants, whatever those things are, immediately connects to your LinkedIn and says that you work there. And then when you leave there, they just press a button that, ends that sort of soulbound ability to access the building. But if you work there again, they can just re-access that one. And every time you do it, it just automatically updates your LinkedIn. And you talk about the conveniences of it and all the discounts that you get because of it. If you buy a car, do other things that, the company negotiates, all that just happens seamlessly behind the scenes. It's that's cool. And then again, they're like, well, it's on the blockchain. They're like, it's a scam. It's the devil. It's once he starts explaining what this stuff does, it just seems like a no-brainer for businesses. They just need to open their mind to how to use it. And I have a book for them if they want to learn about how to use it. But the point being, I agree. I think that happens. Now, on the price action, that's part two. I don't know, but I've been having this thought lately about the fact of how, at first I was like, is this mid-curving? And it's I'm chasing all these alpha plays constantly, which there's nothing wrong with, and I've been successful doing some of them. But I feel like I'm chasing the latest ordinal or what's going on Blast. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the game. It's fun. I enjoy that side of it. But it reminds me of when I started investing in crypto in 2017, and then I got flushed out of the market because my friends all said it was scammy and I wasn't on X and, sold, I think, either at a slight gain or a loss in 2018 when the crash happened. And it's I had this thought in my head. I'm if I dollar cost averaged what I'm dollar cost averaging now, from 2017 until today, I wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't even be working. I'd be fine. So I do think that there's like, do you think just investing in ETH, Bitcoin, and maybe Solana, and I would say Chainlink is now on that list as well, following the successful bank pilot, which we can touch on. We touched on it at one point earlier this week, but you know me, I nerd out over the regulatory, the big stuff. But I think if you invest in those four, and this again, as we said at the top of the show, it's not financial advice. These markets are exceptionally risky, but these assets that have outperformed other asset classes, these assets that seemingly are going to have, you know, Solana being like the outlier at the moment, but seemingly have real world use cases, government approval, like more mass approval. Although I think Solana's getting there based on what I'm seeing from them. Like, is it mid-curving to just dollar cost average these? Is it something everybody should just be doing? Is it what do you think about like the fact that like we're out here trying to chase everything, putting our money in a liquid JPEGs, and if we just keep it in ETH, we're in good space. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's not mid curve. That's probably the right curve move is just to stay in majors and continue to DCA into majors. I think all of us that are full conviction in the space long term, like that's an easy play, both looking forward and looking back. And again, it's a lot of variables in terms of what kind of price action we see in the short term. But I think all this is major momentum and major catalyst for the long term prospects of ETH in particular. All the others you mentioned, yes, certainly, but I think ETH in particular, I think stands to benefit because of the narrative that will be told to the public, and others will start to realize that. Because I still, maybe I'm way off, I still think there's a large portion of the population, probably some of them that hold crypto, that really view crypto as nothing more than magic internet coins, that it's purely a financial asset and you can't do anything else with it. It's just something you either store as a store of value or you spend to transact with. I believe there's a large percentage of people that some may even hold these assets that really don't have any clue as to what blockchain tech can really do, as to the real powers and the utility of the Ethereum network. Good question in the chat, Steve, from Formed Chaos asks, would an ETH ETF increase gas fees dramatically? I don't believe so. I mean, the short-term trading volume that likely would ensue on the news, that potentially would. However, the volume that's going to be driven, the inflows and outflows from any ETH buying from the institutions, I think there's such large, you know, they're being the actual on-chain transactions are such large purchases that it's probably not even going to make any sort of noticeable impact, I would guess, you know, because everyone that's buying an actual ETH ETF that's not an on-chain transaction. They're just effectively buying it from the holdings that the fund has. You know, so I don't think it has a tremendous impact on gas, other than I do anticipate some, you know, a spike in volume and activity following the news. Either way, I agree with Jeremy there. Either way, approval or denial, I will see a flood of activity on chain, and that will spike gas in the short term. But I don't think we see any sort of material impact on gas long term. If we do, even more bullish for the L2s.
Yeah, no, I'm more on the application layer of the blockchain than the technical layer. I always say, like, know what you know what you don't know. I obviously understand the underpinnings of a blockchain, but like, as far as whether it does anything to gas, I actually don't know. Your thesis sounds good to me, but could be right, could be wrong. I'm just not on that level.
Yeah, mine is not. My thesis is not baked in any sort of technical analysis. It's just purely like logic and ration. Like knowing how these funds will be buying thousands of ETH at a time. Is there going to be some activity and some volume? Yes. But I would even imagine like most of that's probably even going to be a lot of it will be at centralized exchanges like Coinbase. Like, so while there'll be activity, it'll be dozens of buyers buying in big buys. It's not going to be millions of buyers buying this. Presumably the millions of buyers of ETFs, that each one of those transactions is not touching the chain.
Yeah, no, and before we go to Shiba, I'll just say I pinned up to the top if people are curious why I mentioned Chainlink within those groups. a bunch of financial institutions. It was not exhaustive. It was several of them, but I listed some of the big ones: Edward Jones, Franklin Templeton, J.P. Morgan, U.S. Bank, some ones people have heard of, completed a successful pilot with Chainlinks. And they said, quote, there are a multitude of on-chain use cases for blockchain. So just, again, like, these are the things where it's like, I had that one post. We're going to get, if we get to nerd out on sort of policy / things that are happening to drive towards mass adoption and actual use of the blockchain, I'm just going to be tickled this morning. But, I kind of mentioned this in one of my posts. It's sort of the slow at first, then all at once. Because it's crazy. Because, like, we're sitting here, and meanwhile, like, it was almost like a non-story to us, like Dot Swoosh dropping more gear. And, like, I'm just sitting here out here thinking, man, but blockchain's coming really hot and fast. And some of the stuff that was once stories maybe aren't. But either way, Shiba, rocking a Lazy Lion, which is something that I maybe hadn't expected to see this morning. GM, how are you? And what was with why the PFP change? What got you excited about Lazy Lions?
I just like representing projects, and Poppy likes to change every 6 hours. So if I can keep up with him, it's really, really a challenge. I've had this line literally since like year one, and I just had the 5-year Twitter anniversary of me being on this beautiful space. So I thought Wednesdays will dedicate it to Lions. They're cooking over there. They got a good team. I've got to meet them in New York City, so I've known their team, which was originally their community, for a minute. But I just wanted to jump up and say hello, happy Friday. I've been in and out all week. So the ETH thing, it's been quite exciting, I think, right on the forefronts. We've seen what happened with the ETF.
We just can't let this fly here.
What? The Lazy Lion?
No, you just wished us a happy Friday, and you've said you've had a long week. What? Yeah. Like, apparently, what kind of
It's Wednesday. It's okay. It's okay. Wednesday's Friday now when you're in Web3. Don't you know that? Midweek is Friday. It's all the same. It's all the same now.
There's no such thing as days when you're working
unless it's bowling Sundays, then we know it's Sunday. Yeah.
Whatever. Like, I just saw your morning tweet. Whatever weed you're opening your day with. We need to know the strand. That is the alpha. Apparently, if you think you can teleport 2 days into the future, it's that might not just be cannabis.
I got it right here. Hold on. I'll let you know in a second. It's in the bag. But I wanted to say the ETH things. Watching the ETF possibly happen would be fantastic. My portfolio went up 20%, but if you look at the way the floor prices of mutants and moonbirds went down, 0.08 and 0.1, it averaged out to me only being up 7%. So if ETH goes up a lot, ETH NFTs kind of balance out a little bit. Didn't go down as much as they did previous time this happened. Let's say Bitcoin was at 65K, it went up to 71. ETH NFTs were just like, oh my God, let's put it into coins. But that's not the market right now. It's really just ETH and Bitcoin, and then there's like maybe a few other coins that I didn't really check on CoinMarketCap yet that maybe might have moved, but there's no like meme token market right now. I know that there are 1 or 2 ruins that are doing pretty well, that have recovered a small percentage, 20, 30 plus. But either way, we're not seeing that flood come into the market yet. We're just kind of seeing it test the all-time high. So ETH is kind of still behind, right? All-time high was 4K. So a little bit underneath that. I think the current surge is not just from the possible ETF rumor, but I think it's all going to balance out. I think ETH and ETH NFTs are the play, but the rest of the market, I think, is super unstable. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out going into summer, because I know there's a lot of us that are screaming for shitcoin summer, meme coin, altcoins, and there's half of us that really want that NFT summer. So I wonder which one we will get. But if you're here, retweet the room. Influencers, it's okay. You can afford a little post on your timeline. Share it with your friends. Let them know that we're right here. What up, Steve? What up, Cap?
GM. No, I do want to have one quick follow-up to the Lazy Lion PFP and ask, you mentioned they're cooking some stuff over there. What is the exciting part to you about what Lazy Lions are doing, out of curiosity, that got you excited about it?
The whole rebranding process. I know they've done a lot of collaborations with some small companies over the last few weeks. They've really been out on Twitter doing the onboarding and really being out there for the community. So if I look back to the last few months in Lazy Lions, it was really hard to get the founders themselves to get on X. And that is a big, big thing about NFTs. Like, founders need to be here every day, but look at Frank, look at Wob, look at, every other founder in Web3. If you're not on Twitter, you're kind of missing out. So I think they have that now with their new team. And just like they're always on X. So if I don't know directly what's going on via the Discord, I can find out by jumping in a space, and I think that's always cool. And their community's also been out there hosting spaces, so they're just doing what's been right. If you're asking for the meats and the potatoes, I have no idea. I know that they've just signed a bunch of different stuff. I know the Discord's going crazy because I get the notifications. So, what's happening is good, I guess. When you know what's coming in the future. If people are being quiet, that's when people get upset. Hence the CryptoPunk thing, and then the announcement came out. But at least they fixed it. But yeah, happy Wednesday, not Friday. I guess Friday for people that live on the planet. Oh, this Strand is also waiting game. So there you go.
I'll have to do some research, but it sounds like Shiba might have opened the morning with an indica or something. I don't know. A couple other quick news highlights, Steve, before we get into wherever Joey would like to take us. It is Bitcoin Pizza Day. If you've ever been curious and wondered what $700 million worth of Papa John pizza looks like, just head up above, check out the picture of Laszlo and his two pizzas he purchased 14 years ago today for 10,000 Bitcoin. If you'd like to join the Pizza DAO party, check out Saucy's link up above. Head to Pizza DAO, the account, find your local pizza party at globalpizzaparty.xyz. Snacks and Saucy and several great ones in the community that contribute and help organize, put on those pizza parties every year. I don't know. I'll have to check, see if there's one in the area. I might be able to catch one today, Steve. But if not, if I can't catch the actual pizza party, I will at least I can at least do cheese pizza tonight. So I will enjoy some pizza today. That solves for what I need to figure out for dinner. So thank you for that. The DC Investor tweet is up above. We mentioned the Welcome Ape show tonight. We mentioned Ape Fest. Hope everyone got their tickets. It is sold out. Looking forward to seeing many friends in Lisbon as well as many in Austin next week. That was the other. When I sent out my Ape Fest tickets, there was the Southwest Apes event tickets in there. And I in parentheses said, and see you in Austin as well. Got a lot of people DMing and some combo going in the war room. Several individuals I didn't realize were going to be going to Consensus. So where I was already excited to spend the week in Austin next week, even more so now knowing that we're going to have a good contingency of existing friends, as well as, I don't want to jinx this, Steve, but I really do feel that we're heading into our most productive conference yet, just based on the events that we have lined up, the meetings we have already scheduled, and I think kind of our collective mindset going into it. No pressure, but I'm very excited, to have a little bit of fun in Austin, but my excitement is even more so on from the side of the builder and knowing who's all going to be there. Just really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, I honestly, this is an odd thing. You are more prepared than I am for this conference. Normally I'm preparing long in advance, but just a lot going on in my house, in my life, with my kids, with my upcoming travel, with everything else. And I've been, planning things. And so I am wholly unprepared for the
brother. I'm collaborating content collaborations already in the DMs. Like I don't know what we're going to do yet, but it's coming. And I can't take credit for taking the initiative. I'm not even going to dox. We're going to keep it a secret on what we made.
Might be the same person. Are they?
No, I'm near certain it's the same person because they knew some of my plans, and I don't think they would have got them from anyone other than you at this point. So, but yeah, excited about that one, and just yeah, man, I'm really well. Actually, I'll probably be using the equipment that yourself and Mrs. NFT Bark procured. So thank you for that. But no, truly pumped, and I guess. We'll have Blaze on here next week talking content creators. I keep getting more and more excited as I immerse myself in this space and spend more time here. The collective attitude of collaboration and willingness to work together and other individuals reaching out and saying, hey, can we work together on something? Where industries I come from, Steve, these were competitors, and it just like. While yeah, there was some best practice sharing and there was some working together, that happened because these people were in different retail markets, and so they didn't compete head to head. Whereas we had franchisees under the same brand, one on the north side of the city, one on the south side of the city, and they were cutthroat. They hated each other. Like they would get complaints from one on the other one, at least once a month, and it's just like the overall vibes here is really something unique and special from someone who spent 20 years in the business world and in somewhat novel industries, right? I just came from phone repair that, for all intents and purposes, retail phone repair was born with the advent of the iPhone, right? It's not like it didn't exist, pre-iPhone. It really came, like, yeah, there was maybe some Sprint stores fixing trackballs on Blackberries, but as a standalone specialty business, it didn't exist until the iPhone. So that industry is not even 20 years old, and there was just so many. Wireless was similar. It's a little older, but it started with so many competitors, and there was eventually consolidation. And while I think we'll continue to see consolidation here, it just from going from early days wireless, early days of repair, and how those quote unquote competitors work together, wink, wink, as compared to how quote unquote competitors work together here, it is night and day. And it's something I'm taking more inspiration from each and every one of those conversations I have.
Yeah, no,
it's to the point I'm ready to raise funds. Like I said it in the War Room, I'm not kidding. Like I'm probably going to build a deck, and I don't even know why yet or what for yet. And that's probably important. Kids, don't not only don't take financial advice, don't raise funds or start a business if you don't have a real passion or a real drive to do it. So I kind of kid, but I say that having several things in the hopper that could use a shot in the arm, and more so because I want to do more with more people right now, and it takes resources to do that. And if I could alleviate, it's like, getting a venture funded right now would actually free up and allow me to double, triple down on coffee without having to feel any sort of stress or pressures on, oh my goodness, I got to start bringing in some money, here soon. The kitty's going to run out. And I don't feel like that, but at some point it's like, I think there's a path, and I think this is also speaking catalyst and ETH ETF. I think this is going to be a catalyst for VCs to flood back into the space again. We're already starting to see the uptick. I know it's nothing like 2021, but we are starting to see some uptick in overall crypto funding. I believe an ETH ETF is going to attract more VCs and more builders once again they realize this is all programmable software. Like this is far more than you're not into magic internet coins. Cool, no problem. 90% of what's being built here, it's like that's a secondary thing, or some of them doesn't even exist at all. It's just like I think that there's going to be this big aha moment for many that's going to attract a lot more builders, a lot more ventures getting funded in this space. And maybe it's just the perma bull in me. Maybe it's just too much optimism, but feels different right now. It's senses, it's feelings that I haven't yet felt in Web3. It's to me, while it's vastly different than 2021, my excitement is maybe even greater than it was when things were just raging in 2021.
Well, I think
this feels sustainable. 2021, we knew we were in a bubble. Like, did we think it was going to last a little longer, or do we think it would play out a little differently? Yeah, if I'm being candid. But we knew that wasn't going to last forever. Like we just, it was partially what drove so much FOMO is this is kind of the golden era. This is not going to last forever. And whereas this time around, I think what we're seeing, a lot of what is being built to last.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And we'll go to Joey here in a second. But I think that's sort of the thing is that, when I've had a week where I had a tweet with 4 major crypto stories, right? Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the U.S. Senate's overturning the SEC staff accounting bill, which was basically making it so banks couldn't custody assets. Fit21, which if you haven't, go to the Stand with Crypto sort of Twitter handle and X handle. I'll post some information about that up top. You can send an email to your senator. They make for you. Wisconsin purchasing $100 million in Bitcoin. A successful pilot with major, again, Franklin Templeton, JP Morgan, US Bank, the ETH ETF approval seemingly pending after it was seemingly dead in the water, especially based on staking mechanisms, which of course we talked about it, in the negotiating world. Fidelity, VanEck, Invesco, and ARK all initially, I think even in Franklin Templeton, all initially had staking in their approvals, all pulled them out. It's a clever sort of, group move. It's almost like a collective bargaining negotiation you see when the NFLPA is like, we want to be able to, fly. We want to be able to fly with those wingsuits, which is incredibly dangerous. No NBA team would ever let you do that. That would obviously be like a no-no in your contract. They're like, no, we're not going to have to do those fly wingsuits. We'll take that out if you give us this. It's like they put in something in staking, which obviously is a great way to make the most money, but is not going to, not going to fly with the sticky regulatory situation. Okay, cool. Because right now there's this huge debate on yield, and I won't bore people on it, but it's like, does yield count as a capital gain? Is yield the equivalent of, if you have a tree and it bears a fruit and you sell that fruit, is the fruit the yield? Like, how do you look at the yield exactly? And there's a large debate over what that exactly means. Either way, without going down a rabbit hole, the TLDR in this is we have a regulatory environment that is completely different than it was in 2021 when it was expensive. Monkey JPEGs, it is a different type of feeling. Each market has its own sort of reasoning and rhyme, and this one feels pretty big. Let's go down to Joey.
Before we go to Joey, I don't know. You mentioned something about agreement and like I don't even know where, like I can't connect the dots to figure out how my brain works, but I just had to get in the quick acknowledgement that if we haven't already ended the greatest of all time debate, the fact that Michael Jordan had a clause in his contracts where he could play for the love of the game, like that in itself singles him out like as a competitor and how like why he was the greatest, because he would actually in his contracts give himself the right, if he wanted to wear a wingsuit to play basketball, they would have let him do it. But LeBron probably can't even play a pickup game because the billions of dollars is more important than the love of the game. Joey, GM, thanks for your patience.
GM guys, I actually watched a very long video last night about the LeBron Michael Jordan debate, and I would love to go down this rabbit hole of LeBron versus Jordan. But
we're queuing up. We're producing Mid-Mic Crisis Friday afternoon content. I think we're due for a good Jordan LeBron debate. And
I'm totally there.
In this rabbit hole here, it's like it's time to revisit. The twilight of his career. Is Bronny going to come out to play with him? Like, I think this is a good, worthy, executive production of Mid-Mic Crisis for Friday.
Yeah, I
mean, because also it's in the news is JJ Redick the answer to coach the Lakers, LeBron's podcast buddy, and this is causing drama in the league right now as well. So yeah, I think very very fitting topic for Friday's Mid-Mic Crisis.
Yeah, I'm gonna save it then, and I'm definitely gonna be on Mid-Mic Crisis for Friday because I have
please do because Chamber will set everybody straight on this debate. This debate won't even be a debate. Maybe I'll join Chamber and the two of us can just be, Macho Man and Hulk Hogan just taking out every tag team partner that tries to show up. It'll be like a Royal Rumble where we just toss people out the ring. But Joey, take us any direction you want on the crypto.
Yeah, I'm gonna bite my tongue on this till Friday. I don't want to start this, but I want to talk about Chainlink real quick for people in the audience that don't know what Chainlink is and don't know what the capabilities of Chainlink are. So for those that don't know, Chainlink is what they've built and quote unquote building is to be able to connect the blockchain to the everyday world, right? So Chainlink is what is what is RWAs, DPINs, to your point, the banks. This is what people are building on to be able to take smart contracts and then communicate with off-chain data and information. So it's been flying under the radar for a really long time. Like I've been DCAing into Chainlink for a couple of years now because of the forward thinking of that team. But so when we talk about when are we going to have real estate on chain, right? Like when are we going to have, what are DPINs, right? We haven't talked a lot about DPINs on this show, and maybe one day there could be a show on that. But like DPINs are decentralized physical networks, right? So this is where, for example, every single pawn shop in America, if they were even though they were owned individually, you would be able to scan inventory across every single pawn shop in America because all that data that's off chain would be communicated through an oracle on chain, right? So if you were looking for something specific and your local pawn shop didn't have it, you might be able to find it in a pawn shop in Minnesota, right? So Chainlink, and what we have to understand what Chainlink is doing is when we talk about how do we onboard the masses and how do we get Web 2 and right, like I talk about real estate and how the biggest hurdle right now is the fact that counties and cities, their technology hasn't caught up yet. They don't have the ability, like you have to wet signature and walk in contracts sometimes. Well, Chainlink is solving that problem, right? They're using their technology to be able to aggregate and collect off-chain data and connect it with smart contracts in the Ethereum network. So they're essentially bridging that gap in technology with what they're building. And without going into this for like hours, I would highly suggest anybody that's bullish on the blockchain and the future of the blockchain permeating its way into other industries and everyday life, go read about Chainlink, read their white paper, go to their website. It is really incredible what they're doing. And the fact that Steve said it multiple times that some of the largest banks in the world are considering using them and testing them is a major, major step for us into the future of getting the blockchain into major industries. Like I don't know how or why they've flown so under the radar for so long. Maybe because in our space, it's less about, the tech. I know when you go into traditional crypto spaces, like Chainlink is talked about all the time. But even still, when you look at it from like, again, not financial advice, but from like a perspective of like
I
how
do
much it
like not
costs.
financial ice though. Not financial ice sounds lit. Like I don't know what financial ice is, but I need some financial ice in my water this morning.
It's the new it's what Pudgy Penguins are coming out with.
That was good, Joey. That was quick on your feet right there. I like that.
Yeah, like the cost, like what it cost. And again, I don't know, their token is supposedly it's kind of like their token is similar to, I guess, kind of like the XRP token, where it's supposed to be the token that you would use to interact with what they're building. So I don't know really how much value their token's going to have long term, if you're actually ever going to really need their token, because the networks they're building is what people will use. But I think it's undervalued, hence why I've been DCAing into it for like 2 years. But yeah, if you're bullish on the blockchain, you need to do your research on Chainlink. And
Yeah.
Gigi is a very smart person when it comes to this stuff. So I'm sure she's going to come in here and like, Joey, you forgot this and you forgot that.
Or Gigi is a very smart person, period. Don't even need the qualifier of on this particular stuff.
I just came in for the ice. I'm just trying to buy it.
You heard about financial ice and you're like, wait, hold on. This sounds way easier than hosting spaces, running events, buying crypto, creating content, trying to trade the market. If I can just put some fucking ice in my water. But no, Joey brings up a really good point when you talk about, and we're going to talk about an application. What I love is on my screen, we have Teedra and Joey next to each other. Joey with the Colony, Teedra doing some work with Courtyard. We're going to let him talk about RWAs here in a second, which is an application that you have on Chainlink. Give him a couple minutes to talk about that and what he's doing there. They sold out in 20 minutes. Joey might say, haha, we sold out in 20 seconds yesterday when they did the blast thing with their, with the supply of, I think, 50, which I got one. But I would say, like, you talk about the Chainlink again, just a reset on this, because it is important to note all of these things that are going on right now. The Chainlink news is very big when you look at what's ultimately happening in a regulatory perspective, because the banks make a difference in what the government decides to do. Say what you want about the American political system. Like, that is a fact that is just, big money controls the way things go. Like, we talked about it before, like when we were oversimplifying the political system, we haven't even gotten to the fact that, the Republicans are starting to look at taking donations in crypto, which I think has a major, to me.
He already announced it. You can donate to his campaign with Bitcoin.
With fucking Doge. You can donate to his campaign with Doge. And like, yesterday, and we won't go down this rabbit hole, or we'll save this rabbit hole for after we talk to Teedra here in a second. But, we talked Chainlink, we talked the FIT21 bill. We're talking about, the various regulations that are going through and what this means, and it's slow it fast and all at once. But I think like that is something where yesterday we talked about it, and I was like, look, like they're like the crypto vote doesn't swing an election. Like we were getting a little too in our bag when people were saying that. Like I think a little bit. However, donations do make a difference, and there are probably some people who say my livelihood is in crypto. Those are the people who want to push it. This is the person. I mean, there was a bill that passed where they were repealing a bill. I mentioned it. Repealing a bill which effectively said that banks can't custody crypto. And President Biden said he was and I'm not making a political statement one way or the other because I'm very mixed on my political views across the board. I'm very, as people know, because I've gotten shit for it, I'm very socially liberal. I am more fiscally conservative, which I know is sort of a cliche, but that I think I embody it as much as anybody. But when, he's saying I'm going to veto this if it comes across my desk and not let banks custody these assets, like that, there are people who are going to vote and donate based on that. And this isn't based on my personal opinion, more so saying that if there are people who are Bitcoin whales or, sitting there with a ton of Dogecoin or whatever other ones he's taking and saying, man, you know what? Like this guy can is taking donations. I could see a difference being made with the inflows, with the funding and following that money. So I do think it's interesting. And if I were any political candidate right now, if there is a compliant and regulatory way, which we know, Donald Trump's moves a little like hot and fast when it comes to regulation and compliance, and doesn't really care. It's like that little rule. Don't worry about that little rule. But like, if there is a way to do this, then I think it is a smart move for any candidate to give inflows for seamless transfers this way instead of going through the traditional system. So I think that that's an interesting one as well. But I want to pivot over for a second because I told Tom we're going to talk a little To the Moon cards. They have a drop going on tonight at 9 p.m. We talked about the Colony the other day. They sold out in how quickly, Joey, did you sell out?
Less than 20 seconds, less than 30 seconds. I don't even know. It was really fast.
Fast enough for last drop. It was really, really funny. Last drop the Colony did. Mrs. NFT Bark got a box. She was smiling. I got a box. I didn't get a box. I was salty. This time, I got a box. I was smiling. She didn't get a box. She was salty. However, if you know anything about Miss NFT Bark, she's the one who calls the radio station and is the 9th caller and wins the fucking prizes all the time. Like, she has a horseshoe up her ass. She will admit it. She is very lucky in that sense. Like, it's almost like a skill. It's almost like a skill in how she does these things. Like, to tell a very quick story before we go there, in high school, I'll date myself and how old I am. In like 1998 or 1999, when I was in high school, I was dating Mrs. NFT Bark, and I wanted to surprise her, and I was super excited, and there was a boy band named 98 Degrees that she really liked, and I was like, I'm going to get her tickets. It's going to be awesome, and I wait outside, make sure I get the tickets, wait in line, get the tickets that are like, 7th row or something. I'm like, oh my God, for like a kid who just like caddies, like carries golf bags around, like it's a great way for me to spend my money. And then I get a call. I'm on a school trip for Model UN. Again, talking about how cool I was in high school. I was in Model UN. I'm on a school trip for Model UN, and I'm calling her to say what's up. And she's like, you'll never believe what happened. I'm like, what? She's like, I was the 9th caller on the radio station, and I went 98 Degrees tickets. I was like, where are they? And they were literally like 2 rows in front of the tickets I worked to buy because she was able to kind of call in and get them. So I did what any sort of intrepid 16-year-old does, wanting to get brownie points, which is I gave them to her sister. But either way, the idea that like she is like able to have this mint luck and pull good things, it's like she pulls a card from the Colony drop and she gets a swap value of like 150, 160 bucks, right? For like I think it was like a $50 drop, that one, or whatever it was, right? I go and pull a card. It's a $100 drop. My swap value is $52. I'm just like, fuck, I should have had her do this. So anytime you have a reveal, Mrs. NFT Bark, your go-to lady. She's fantastic at it. And so she will almost certainly be participating tonight. Tom, 9 p.m. tonight, y'all go live constantly. I love your grind. I'm inspired by your journey because y'all started with something you were passionate about. You make great content. You have a great dynamic. You, J-Rob, Chelsea's hilarious. The dynamics are funny. So what do you have going on tonight?
Thank you, Steve. And happy Friday. Captain. So we got our second courtyard drop tonight. We are live at 9 p.m. If you're not familiar with Courtyard, they tokenize your physical assets, put it onto the blockchain, mainly sports and TCG cards at this point. So tonight we are doing our second VFriend card drop. We're doing a little bit more than we did last time. Last time was 75 cards. This time's 125 cards. But we go live at 9. The drop goes live at 9:15. In that 15 minutes, we'll be discussing the pack art, the cards that are going to be in it. We've teased a few. Chelsea is actually up here with me. She's on the To The Moon account. Jay couldn't make it today. But that's what we got going on tonight. Super excited.
What have you teased so far? So what are people looking forward to?
So Chelsea put out a great hype video where she just flashed a whole bunch of cards. So if you're familiar with the VFriends card, there's rarities, there's core cards, rares, very rares, epics, all the way to one of ones. And then the characters are rarer as well. We have a whole bunch of cards that range from core cards that are somewhat rare. We call them tier 2 in the 8.5 grading, all the way up to an epic level that is graded a 10. We have rare Black Cat. We have a whole bunch of chase cards, rares that graded 10s. So a lot of high value cards as well. That it ranges from about, I would say $35 to up to several $100s in cards.
Love that. No, I think it's really fun, and I have gotten into a little bit of the compete and collect game itself. I have a question for you as a VFriends resident expert on cards, actually. And this is just like Steve asking his personal questions now at this point. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my background, and one of the things I got when I was in the VFriends office, they have like a wall in the Vayner offices where they actually have cards you can kind of take out and take home as a hey, I visited, I get a card. Does my Kind Kudu 8.5 technically count as a Gary original owned and have a higher value because I got it directly from the VFriends office, or because I have no provenance to prove that? Is that not the case?
Well, if it's a Gary originally owned, it'll say so on the back of the card. So when they grade at CGC, you can put what's called a pedigree, which is just a few words on the back of the slab, and it'll say Gary Vaynerchuk originally owned. So that's how you prove it. And they do that for all the cards that they opened and graded. So I have a few myself, but that's how you want to check it. And that's cool that you mentioned that, because when I went there, I did not get anything off the wall. So good for me. I love
wow. That. What did shots that's crazy that they're not as a honored guest, because they have that. Do you know what wall I'm talking about? It's like kind of by where they film. There's that wall right there, and they have them in there. You didn't just go ahead and grab one out?
No, I was handed. So I was on the Fnatic stream. They had me and Josh Courage on there. We did a whole bunch of mini games, and then because at the end of the mini games I ended up winning, they gave me a couple cards. So I am mostly joking, but I did not pull anything off that wall. But I do know what you're talking about. There's the wall of also like the iconic canvases there. It's a whole scene at that office.
Yeah, it's a really cool office because well, first of all, it would have been better if you were like, Steve, you're not supposed. That is an art installation. You're not supposed to take cards out of that. But so I'll call it a Jeremy originally owned, because he was the one who hooked me up there. But no, it's funny you say that, because that's one of the cool parts about those offices is it's like, for a nerd who's been a fan of Gary / likes business / likes entrepreneurship, the office is decorated in that style where you have all of these different things that I love when I walk around this office. So it's a really cool office in that sense, that it's like a nerd paradise. It's why I like VCon so much. It's like VCon's like entrepreneurship, business, technology, culture, all these things that I'm super interested in. I'm like, this is why I like this conference so much. It's all the shit that I like. So it's very cool. I want to throw to Joey, because I saw Joey's hand fly up. Joey, be nice.
No, I just want to say that I'm really excited for Tom and his team. The reason why, we're building what we're building and what other people are building as well, is we want to create new opportunities for individuals like Tom, right? Like people that have been streamers or that own a brick and mortar or are used to selling on eBay. So I love hearing the success story of somebody like Tom into the Moon being able to come onto a platform and create more opportunities for their businesses and grow. I mean, that's what the blockchain is going to do. And again, to tie this back to Chainlink, this is exactly how and why we could utilize Chainlink as well, connecting off-chain information with on-chain stuff. So it's really cool. I'm really excited for Tom. I love that it's a VFriends drop because it's bringing Web 2 and Web 3 together in multiple ways. So I'm excited for you guys. I hope you sell out super fast. I hope you guys crush it and continue to crush it because in my opinion, like Steve says, rising tides lift all ships. So all success is great success for me in this space.
It's true. I came up with that phrase myself. Rising tides raise all ships. Steve.
Yeah, not the Vikings or anybody else. Steve.
I appreciate that, Joe. Thank you for that. Hope we can connect more.
I was going to say, y'all two should connect because I bet you there's some synergies, even though I know you're working with Courtyard, Tom, and Joey, you have Colony, and you're both crushing it right now.
Steve, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Did you switch phones?
No, I don't know what happened. I think my audio cut out for a second there. But I got to say, while it's great to hear they're getting along, I dropped it in the chat, and I'm just going to, we got to make it happen. If we don't see Tijer, how am I saying it? If we don't see Tom and Joey in a karate cage match, crypto karate, what is it called? The
Karate Combat series?
The Karate Combat, yes. If we don't see the two of you in a Karate Combat series, Courtyard versus the Colony, the promoters are just doing it wrong. We have to make this happen.
The content writes itself.
Chelsea's a scary one. I don't want to go in against Chelsea. That's what you definitely don't want to do. You like Tom, maybe J-Rob, go for it. But Chelsea, you do not want any part of that. Sorry, Joe, I cut you off.
I was going to say, what is it? What is the saying? Any publicity is good publicity. So if I got to go get my nose broke to get RWAs and collectibles on chain talked about, then let's do it.
There's something about an RWA and a collectible that gets me all excited, though. You know what I mean? It's like there's one of these things about owning a thing that you're I can cash this in to get the thing. I can keep it, in my vault. I know that I own it. And I just keep looking forward to somebody who builds an infrastructure so I can flexibly carry that asset digitally across spaces so that if I'm excited, I'll give a great example. My son, when I went to VCon last year, I bought a way too expensive on paper to most people Charizard card because he's a big Pokemon fan at one of the booths that was selling sort of cards. I also bought a pack to rip open and see if we could find some rares. No luck. Should have had Mrs. NFT Bark do it. But my son and I, I went ahead and got him, this slab Charizard card. It's worth hundreds, if not, over 1,000. It's a lot of money. And actually, the first thing I did is I was like, look, I don't necessarily want you to tell your friends about this because, one, I don't want them to think your dad's making irresponsible decisions. They already know that I work with NFTs and crypto, and so they already think I'm a total skis-bo, number one. But number two, I don't want some kid to steal it or beat you up or whatever. I shit you not. And this is a good thing. My son was proud of it. He brought it to show and tell the next day and was like, yeah, it's worth a lot of money, maybe $1,000. I was like, literally the one thing I asked you not to do. And then, but he likes it. It's he has that card, but being able to vault it and be able to share it with his friends, right now it's in a super safe location for him, right? Because he doesn't want his friend, he wants to show his friends and then hide it somewhere, right? And I got him I think it was a One Piece, it might have been a Luffy card, I can't remember, when I was at the Colony event at NFT NYC. There was someone there who ripped one open, and I went over and was like, look, and it was somebody who had mentioned that they liked my book or whatever, and I'm like, I will make you a deal. I will sign a book for you right here and trade it for that card so I can bring it directly to my son because he's a big One Piece fan. And, he got it from Docs and Wizard. They were filming at the Colony event. They made the trade. I brought it home. When I gave it to my son, he ran it up to where he has a whole display in his room. He's very organized and put in the middle. But it's a world where my son could have this be a virtual thing that when he goes on different games, they see the cards that he thinks are cool, that he's proud of, which, by the way, his favorite cards aren't always the most expensive one. They're sometimes his favorite Pokemon or sometimes his favorite One Piece characters, He really likes the skeleton in One Piece, whose name is escaping me. But it's the skeleton guy is his dude. He plays a song that my son tried to figure out on piano when he was messing around. He has this thing where he likes this. It's about flexing your digital identity, and it doesn't have to be the most expensive card. So,
Brooke, Steve.
What's that?
Brooke.
Yes, absolutely. That's it. And I have one from the colony that I got. So I just think the idea that you can do that. And by the way, for me, it would be like sending in my Kind Kudu V Friends card. Why? Not because an 8.5 Kind Kudu is like the best card, but because it represents going with Jeremy to the Vayner office. You know, the day that I had up there. Terrell Jones was there, and I got to meet with him and talk with him for a while because he was hanging out, hung out with, obviously Andy was there. It's like having this conversation. Gary stopped by and said hi. I did the weirdest move where, because Gary is the top quote on my book, if you look at my book on the back, the endorsements, Gary's number one, I pulled out a book and I was like, in the event I saw you, will you sign my book that I wrote? Because and he was like, sure, man, of course. I was like, means a lot. Appreciate it. So I have a signed Gary Vaynerchuk everything token book. But that is what the Kind Kudu represents. So the idea that I would be able to stash that, have it digitally, and not just digitally in one wallet location, but flexibly carry it across spaces. So when people see it and they're like, it's like when somebody goes to your house and you have Ohio State University shit everywhere. They're like, oh, big Ohio State fan, right? When people see my art on my wall, they'll ask about the Dario De Siena over my piano. And I'll say, oh, I was there the day he minted out, the day he became a true selling artist. He's always been an artist, but that was the day that he monetized it and was able to do it, and being on his spaces and hearing him brought to tears by it. When I have the Gabe Weiss on my wall, the hand drawn, when I met him at VCon and he hand drew it for me and, we've become friends and all these other things. I have a story behind each piece of art on my wall. Imagine if you had that digitally where someone's like, what's with a Kind Kudu card? And you have that opening to have a shared moment about one of the, cooler moments you had, in a very long time, right? And so I think those things are special about what RWAs can turn into. Again, I was giving a presentation to an agency in Minnesota, and there's a guy that's like, I have a Joe Mauer bat. It's something I value. And then he was asking me about the value of NFTs. I'm like, who cares about your Joe Mauer bat? It's a bat that a guy uses in game, but it's cool because you're in Minnesota and Joe Mauer is underrated as fuck. Now imagine if you could display that everywhere and everybody knew you owned it, but you didn't have, it wasn't just the people who went into your basement shrine area, right? That you just look at. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, but one of the cool eventual things about RWAs is a pick and shovel build out that starts to let us carry things flexibly across digital spaces as the blockchain becomes something we use on social media. And instead of walled gardens, you have an efficient asset that travels across places. So I'll get off my soapbox, but that's my thought.
Yeah, we're not going to get down the greatest of all time debate today, but I do have to give Joe Mauer some flowers. Many don't know, especially the kids, have no idea. They may know of Joe Mauer, the catcher. Many do not know he was one of the greatest athletes, greatest high school athletes of all time. The guy threw for over 3,000 yards and 40 touchdowns as a quarterback. His high school stats are, I think he was also maybe his state's basketball player of the year.
He was free sport.
The guy was an absolutely insane, LeBron James level type athlete that would go on to be a Hall of Fame catcher.
Yeah, people forget that Chris Webber actually was the LeBron James for LeBron James. There's a lot of people who fall in those roots that people forget about because we didn't have the crazy hype. But we are way off the rails. I'm going to let Joey get back in here. Then we're going to get back to Tom. And then we'll probably get back to more crypto regulation in the news. But Joey, get in.
Before we go to Joey, speaking of off the rails and in the news, so I will tie it all together to crypto news and then hand it off to Joey. I got my morning walk in. I'm back in the war room now. Part of my morning walk on Wednesday, Steve, there's a local coffee shop. They do quarter flip cup. So you can max out at 3 a day. You get to flip a quarter, and if you guess it right, your cup's only 25 cents. You probably aren't surprised to know that I will max out. If I don't hit it my first one, I'll max out my 3 flips every single day. So my degeneracy on blast carries into my real life activity to where I will keep going back to the coffee shop until I actually, and I go tails every time. Tails never fails. And you say it as they flip it. And, that is my, I live and die degeneracy, including the quarter flip day at the coffee shop.
I like the tail. First of all, that is a fucking awesome promotion. Second of all, Tails Never Fails is affected me so deeply that I will not call anything else because it's sort of like I bet on the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Why? Because if the Chiefs lose, I can say, look, I bet on Patrick Mahomes and he lost past 2 years and I've won money on both those, right? It's but if I bet on the Kansas City Chiefs against them and they win, why did I bet against one of the greatest athletes ever to play football? Tails Never Fails. If you call heads and that shit comes up tails, you look like a moron because you're like, of course it came up tails. Tails never fails. If you say tails and it comes up heads, it's like, whatever. Like it's like tails never fails, but you can live with that loss. I cannot live with calling heads and having it come up tails because the rhyme, this is how much of a meatball brain I am. I can like write Harvard Business Review articles, but at the same time, I can be tricked by a rhyme into thinking on how I'm going to call 50-50s. But Joey, get in here, then we'll go to Tom, and then we'll keep moving through.
Real quick on the topic of heads versus tails, who remembers when they were little and they were playing like football outside and you would do lines or spaces, like you would put the ball behind someone's back and you'd have to decide whether like it was a line or a space to see who got ball first? Do you guys remember that?
I never did lines versus spaces. I've never even heard of this.
Oh,
Must be a Florida thing from your super athletic high school.
We didn't carry quarters on us, so we couldn't do heads or tails. So we would literally put the football behind your back, and if it was the space or the line, you would have to pick one to decide. Anyways, okay. So real quick, the other really cool thing that you mentioned. When I was younger, my father had collectibles, and we would have show and tell at school. Oh, I got a heart from Dow Jones. He remembers lines versus spaces. You would have show and tell at school, and I don't know if they still have show and tell or not, but you would always want to bring like something really cool that your parents owned, and most of the time it was kind of expensive, or maybe it was something that you were given as a gift that was really expensive, and your parents would be like, no, you can't bring that to school. Like, what if something happens to it, right? Like, but now with the blockchain and what we're doing and what Courtyard and Tom, what everybody's doing with these collectibles, like that card that your wife revealed for your son, that Monkey D. Luffy, that's worth $150 or $175, he can technically bring it to show and tell without actually bringing it to show and tell and risking it, whatever, somebody stealing it or him dropping it in the toilet or whatever, right? Because not every kid is responsible. So it's also just like practical application of what we're doing beyond just the really cool stuff of increased liquidity and security and provenance. It's just how we can improve everyday life.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point as far as like the ability to actually show and tell something in a way that's kind of different in that you're able to say like, look, I own this thing, and everyone. And the other thing about it is kids get it. Like when I talk about digital assets, kids fucking get it.
Because of Fortnite and Roblox, they get it.
Yeah, like, and I explain it to my kids. They're like, Fortnite, Roblox, like, it doesn't matter. You name it, like, they play it, and it's like, Minecraft, and it's like, my kids buy skins, and it's like, nobody's like, what's the utility of the skin? What's the floor price of the skin? They're like, I want that skin. I like this group. Can I get some Roblox? Oh, I want to buy this thing in Clash Royale. Like, all the different games that my son plays, he gets why you want to own digital things. And if he comes in and show and tell, and it's like, I own this card, and he's like, yeah, they own the real one. It's just in a bank vault, basically. That just makes it fucking cool where the kids think about like these big bank vaults from these big cartoony bank vaults like that Brinks has. It's like, this is what like the future looks like for us, because it's like, we talk about show and tell. If I go into career day, if I go into like a group of my kids' friends' parents and they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, I work in early stage technology. And they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm an author and entrepreneur. They're like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. And like, you have to explain it a little bit. And then you have people being like, why do we need more money? I'm like, no. It's like software. Like, it's like new tech software. It's actually not nearly as scary as you think. If I go into my kid's school and I was like, how many of you have play Roblox? How many of you play Fortnite? How many of you play Minecraft? Every hand is now up in the room at this point. I was like, I kind of do stuff like that. Or I explain what it does, and they're just like, bet, that sounds dope. Like, I remember when I got into NFTs and started explaining it to my kids, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to explain this really slowly. And my kids looked at me, they're like, no shit, Dad, this is what welcome to our world. We've been doing this since we were like 4. And so like, my kids get inherently the idea of digital ownership. So your point, Joey Vowles, is very well taken in the sense that like, if we were going to show and tell now and my kid brought in a digital RWA, like if my daughter, who totally would do this, because my son's a little more shy. My daughter is like me, where she just kicks in the door and she's like, I'm here, what's up? She would definitely come in and show off her like art, like her RWA collection that she has and be proud of it. And kids in her class would get it and be like, that's dope. So I don't know, like, I think it's a very cool concept, and it's something that kids inherently understand. So, Tom, I want to throw it back to you. And before you finish, you need to remind us the drop details from night. You or Chelsea should pin anything to the top of the space you want people to know about to make sure that they can see it so we can get it. But go ahead and get in here, Tom.
Yeah, I'll let Chelsea do that. That's what she's here for. Thanks, Chelsea. So 9 p.m. tonight is when we go live on Twitch. We're To The Moon Cards on Twitch. We are To The Moons _cards on X. And you'll see Chelsea under the account as the speaker. 9:15 is when it drops. We did more, and I wanted to kind of give some exclusive now because it's going to all be announced in that 15 minutes between 9 and 9:15. But the price point that we're going to put, last one was at $85. This time we actually lowered it to $55 because we want what we saw last time, which was really exciting. We have a buyback feature. So whatever cards you get, you buy a digitally sealed slab, and then you can do a digital reveal to see what cards you get out of the 125. We have a buyback feature of 70% of what we put as the value of that card immediately. So you have, I think it's 1 week after you reveal that you can sell it right back to us at 70% of the value of the card. So that if you hit big, you can cash out. If you are one of the ones that are probably worth less than the buy price, you can at least exit with maybe only losing tens of dollars, right? So we wanted to do that. Last time there was 75 cards sold, only 4 people did the buyback. So most people kept it. So that's just onboarding, right, into this space. And we were really excited about it. We actually thought it would be a little bit more, maybe at minimum 10%, but only 4 people chose to do it. And not just ones that lost. Like there was an Epic Smooth Spider, which is a rookie card for the CNC series. So it was super exciting. So tonight, 125 cards. It's a $55 price point. You don't need USDC or ETH to buy it. You can use a credit card. You don't need an account. Or you do need an account. You have to sign up for an account. You don't need a wallet. They'll create one for you. And then it can be connected to, OpenSea, and you can trade it on that platform as well. But the platform and the marketplace on Courtyard's website is much smoother and better, to be honest. So that's the details for tonight. We also, one of the things we're very excited about that I wanted to reveal is the pack art. So last drop, which was the first ever non-Courtyard, corporate drop, they allowed us to do it. They put our logo on the pack that was sold, and we were pumped about it, right? To see our logo on a Courtyard pack to be opened was very cool. What we wanted to do this time is kind of level it up. We actually got Web3 artist Sloth to do the art for the pack. So the actual art will be revealed tonight, but we hired Sloth to create and basically redo our logo in his style. It is absolutely awesome looking, and we're very excited to show it off tonight. We thought that would just further, it's such a digital, physical card world still, right? But we wanted to even be the cross section of digital and physical assets. And we thought adding a Web3 artist furthers that while tokenizing it as well. So super excited about that tonight. And by the way, does your son, I'm assuming he might not have gotten into the Courtyard digital tokenization of a physical card yet. What I'd like to do is, because I have one in my Courtyard wallet, is gift you a Charizard card so that your son can have his first Courtyard card.
Let's fucking go. I will connect offline and I will take you up on that for sure. And we'll let him know as well. Him and my daughter are both starting to kind of get excited about it and starting to get more pumped about it. But he'll be pumped about it, I know, as well as my daughter. My kids are both anime kids, both of them. Chelsea, go ahead. Chelsea, go ahead and get in here.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having us. I just wanted to jump on really quick and say, everyone come over and give us a follow if you like cards, if you like collectibles, if you like innovation of bringing those spaces together with Web3. That's exactly what we're trying to do. And if you like shows that tend to completely go off the rails and are super entertaining, we are here for that too. So just wanted to pop on and say, come give us a follow. We would love to have you join the Moon fam with us.
And
awesome.
That's why we pay her the mediocre dollars.
That's what gets you in right there. it's the right hook. I'm terrible at that. I'm so bad at the sales thing. I was on a call the other day where they were like, I was talking to someone about a potential sponsorship for this show. And I was like, I am horrific at this. So I'm going to go ahead and connect you directly with Chris, and Captain will handle it from there. By the way, Tom and Chels, welcome to, by the way, stay as long as you want, or, you can sneak out the back door if you want. No pressure either way, but we love having you on stage regardless. But yeah, definitely check out the drop at the top. Everything you need to know, like pump for them, pump for the proliferation of RWAs. I think it's good. That's probably the first time I've successfully, in a sentence, not stumbled over the word proliferation. So I'm proud of myself there. So let's mark today as a special day. And while they're there, I'm sure maybe the RWA conversation inspired a couple people to come up here. So I'm going to pronounce this the exact same way I did before, because nobody gets the joke except me because I'm a nerd. But Beardo, not to be confused with Birdo of Mario 2 fame, because I've been playing some Mario 2 recently with my kid. Beardo, get in here, GM.
Hey, GM. So I actually jumped up a little while ago. I jumped up when you guys were talking about the campaign donation stuff. Is it okay if I take it back to that for a second?
Do it. Yeah, go off, King.
All right, awesome. So just so everybody knows, so my background previous to the Web3 space, I was a federal caseworker here in Canada for 5 years. I also sat as a vice chair in a writing association. So a writing association, they're the people that manage the money and everything kind of in between elections here in Canada. There's probably a similar body in the US. So, I mean, my big thing, especially when you're talking about like Doge and things like that, is are they getting these donations from KYC wallets? Do they actually know where the donations are coming from? And specifically with Trump, I know that like previously on his last campaign, there was like a big uptick with his like top hotel room sales and stuff like that from like other countries and stuff of people wanting to do business with them. So I could see like people trying to use this as a similar route, not saying that they would be trying to like endorse that happening. It would just happen. So I mean, I think it is a great idea as long as they know who the donations are coming from. I know in the US too, it's a little bit of a different system when it comes to donations. It's a lot easier to take donations. So I mean, maybe that's okay to some degree. But I mean, that would be my big concern, is just knowing where this money's coming from and being able to track it properly.
Yeah, like tracking the money is an interesting one, because there is a way to use the blockchain to obfuscate the actual donations, which is like, something that I think could be seen as a concern. On the other hand, the transparency and the inflows of money and how it's used are interesting. Joey Valls has talked on this stage before about how, the idea that we would know how the actual money is being used is something that I think is, if we had, and obviously people could still potentially use money offline and all that good stuff. But I think there is something to be said that like the actual blockchain showing the transparency of how the campaign's done. Now, again, this becomes a complicated thing, because then people go like, oh, well, you're spending this much money on meals. And it's like people start looking and start nitpicking if there's transparency. So I've actually argued that maybe transparency isn't great. Like when you see budgets for companies, people go nuts without having all of the, all of the information. But, Romulus, go ahead and get in here, GM.
Hey, GM. I just wanted to, all the way from the Caribbean, I just wanted to show you all some love, Captain Steve and DGen Network. The reason being is that I forgot to say this, but the last time on your show, I met, you had Verbs DAO on, and I actually won an auction. It was about 30 days ago. I think it went for like $750, which is not much, but like it's my first, contribution to, the blockchain and winning something. So I just wanted to really just extend, give you all the flowers to just connecting me and trying something. It was a pixel 32 by 32 pixel art. It's not something I necessarily do, but it was just a good exercise in trying something new, and I won something for the first time, and it's all because of your show. So keep rocking, keep doing what you do. I listen when I can. Everything is always amazing over here.
No, appreciate that very much. Appreciate the kind words. I mean, it's always good to hear stuff like that, and we love, appreciate you listening and tuning in, and everybody who jumps in. Like, I mean, it means the world to us. There's 145 people here listening to us ramble, whether it's about our kids, RWAs, government regulations, people showing up every day. It's something that means so much to us. So appreciate that. very, very much. Joey Valls, I saw your hand flap. Go ahead and get in here.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on what Beardo was talking about, which is yes, and you mentioned it too, right? We talk about this all the time. I think one morning Moshe was here and he was like, oh, but somebody could open up 5 different wallets and then they could cheat the system, right? Yes, there will always be ways to, quote unquote, cheat. But at the end of the day, the idea that we're at least entertaining the idea of using the blockchain, which is immutable, to start to track things like donations is a step in the right direction, right? Is it going to be, thankfully we have people like Zach XBT, we have Blockchain Ninja, we have all these people that are way smarter than us when it comes to tracking on-chain data that can start to at least explore, how do we use the blockchain for donations, for budgeting, for whatever, and then at least have some checks and balances, right? People are going to say, well, we're going to need some form of centralization if we're really going to go in this direction, which is fine. I'm not a decentralization maxi. I'm okay if we find a happy balance between both. But I do think it's a step in the right direction and a step towards more transparency, which I think we all can agree is a good thing when it comes to politics and government. But yes, for everybody in the audience, it's probably like, oh, well, they can still cheat. And yes, it happens in real life. It's going to happen here. But just appreciate the fact that somebody's embracing the technology.
Totally agree. Beardo, go ahead and get in here.
Thanks. Yeah, no, and I definitely agree too. I mean, I think that it's great to have it on the blockchain. That's why I did say, is it KYC? Just know your customers. So, well, let's say you've done the stupid, take the picture of yourself with your ID and you give them the finger and they approve you and you're like, yes. And then they can know who you are. So even then, if you're creating 20 different wallets, they all know that it's the one person that made it. I'm all for having stuff on blockchain as far as the campaign funds, seeing where they're going. I think there's a huge argument for that for government, especially on the really local level. I think you could have something, I don't want to say a DAO just because DAOs are kind of cringy, but something like a voting system that could work on the local level. So the local level is municipal. That's the people that do your garbage and fix your roads, things that actually affect most people in their day-to-day life. I don't think there's a lot of need for the counselors and a lot of the money that gets spent there. I think you could totally do that all by blockchain, but that's a whole other conversation. So I mean, I'm really pro for this, but there is just that easy fix. There's solve that exists right now, the KYC wallets, and there might be better solves out there that someone more experienced with development is aware of. But I mean, I think it just makes sense with something like election funding. You don't want money coming in from outside sources.
Beardo, imagine a world where so for example, I live in the city of Sunrise, where when you move to the city of Sunrise and you then, you take, the city, you file your paperwork with the city that hey, you're now a resident of the city of Sunrise, they issue you an NFT. And then that NFT is what's used to vote in the Sunrise elections. So you would connect your digital wallet, right, to the Sunrise website. They would recognize that you're a Sunrise citizen because you hold this NFT, and then you get to vote in that Sunrise election. And then if you move, right, and now you file your paperwork that you're leaving the city of Sunrise, that NFT is then burned or returned or whatever the case is to then be redistributed to the person that now owns that new house. Or maybe when you sell your house, that asset just transfers with the sale of your house to the new owner. But that would be a really cool use case for blockchain technology, to your point, at the local level when it comes to participating in things. I had my mom wants my daughter to do gymnastics on Saturdays, and they ask for all this paperwork, do you live in Sunrise? What prove that you live in Sunrise? Copies of your ID, blah, 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 all this stuff, where if you just let me connect my wallet that had an NFT that said I'm a resident of the city of Sunrise, I could register her for all the Sunrise programs that I get access to, that I pay taxes for, without having to do all this extra paperwork.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, I mean, I love this conversation just because it's something that I think we can we've now hit the bullshit Jordan versus LeBron argument in the DJ Network War Room as started this morning, for funsies. Although I think everyone's kind of put down their swords a little bit and is being a little bit more kind, but I think we all know what's going on there. But yeah, no, it's a good to have like the good discussions about like where this stuff applies outside of our world, because I think that's the other thing that we sometimes lose sight of is that when you talk about things like RWAs, when you talk about campaign donations, when you talk about the way banks can tokenize assets and securities, when you talk about all the different pilots that are going on right now, when you talk about the ability to connect video games, when you talk about the ability to own all these things, this is what this technology has the ability to do for us as a society. And I think once people start realizing that, and I think, Cap's point about like the Ethereum NFT, like, he said it so much better than I said it yesterday, which was like, wait till people see what ETH can do, was like, that is what makes this whole thing very interesting to me, is like people actually thinking and looking like, oh, this does all that? Well, this seems like a no-brainer software solution. And if it opens the eyes of a few businesses, we start to see it rolling. And so I think that there's like something to be said about that, and like the discussions we're having about where this technology is headed, and the RWAs or conversations I was having yesterday about, NFC chips. I just bought my Vanga stuff finally that Von Frunten and James Clubhouse Archives are working on together, really high quality stuff. I bought, me and the missus both bought stuff, got some money off through Token Proof because we had an ape in the wallet, got 20% off because I signed up for their email list. Now all of a sudden I'm sitting here with really, really high quality stuff at a much, much, much lower cost. So I think like, to me, like that is, where all these things go when you think about NFC chips. Like imagine like when teams hand out a t-shirt during the day or during a game, that t-shirt has an NFC chip that they can program against at any time. Hey, tap it now to get 50% off the thing that they're trying to unload. Tap it now if you went to a game, because if you went to a game and supported us, you get 25% off the, championship gear. Like the amount of things you can do to reprogram a physical item is really interesting. It can go both ways on that. So I think it's interesting across the board. Cap, as we run into the 9:30 hour here, what direction do you want to take us? Feel like I know we went RWAs, we went some government stuff. I'm gonna put the ball in your court. You can be the GOAT like LeBron in the NBA and kind of tell us what direction you want to take it.
I mean, there's probably not the largest contingency that wants to talk about Pew Pew hitting the lottery twice yesterday on Blast, but I've had to reallocate my gold targets, my gold goals on Blast. I went into it hoping like a stretch goal of 1,000 gold. I thought would be like, this would be worth my farm. And we're like, we may hit 1,000 today. So it's like greatly readjusting targets there and doubling down. It's been, well, yeah, I guess there's a little luck involved in these jackpots. I shared it in the worm. I don't know as if we've had anything this predictable in Web3 since we've been in Web3 in terms of how the algorithm for the jackpot works. There is some RNG to it. Either that or you've got, per Zeneca, you've got some leprechaun pulling strings on the back end. But I feel relatively, like, I'll be shocked if PacMoon, Pew, some of these meme tokens that have as wide of distribution as they do don't hit again. And the numbers just, I think it's near impossible at this point that the Blast TGE bombs. There's just way too much TVL over there, and maybe it doesn't hit the $6 estimates, but even at a fraction of that, there's going to be a lot of gains made on this TGE, I feel, and it's just like I was saying yesterday, it's like like for the first time ever, I've had a desire to launch a meme coin because of the jackpot mechanics, and I feel it's so predictable. It's just like, if you do it right, if you follow the PacMoon or the Pew playbook, like I don't see how it doesn't hit a jackpot. And for these meme coins where a jackpot can be more gold than what someone purchased in the token itself, that is I don't know. I feel very low risk play with still high upside. And I say that knowing that, it all could be zero. Gold could come out at zero. I think it's extremely unlikely, but there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of variables. But for the information that we have today, it feels like one of the easier things to predict that some of these tokens with the distribution they have will likely hit jackpots again. I think that the exciting thing we've seen here with Pew hitting twice yesterday is the meta had been, Steve, that people were shorting these tokens, knowing that there would be a big sell-off after they hit the jackpot. That did not happen with Pew. It's basically rebounded to where it was. There was little sell-offs, but it quickly rebounded. And I think the fact that we've seen two hit in a row here, I think it may maybe not eliminate, but mitigate the shorts and the sell-offs following one of these memes hitting a jackpot. And I get more bullish on the L2 ecosystem, and in particular right now it happens to be Blast as they approach TGE. That's kind of where my head is at. Is all this ETF stuff going on? While it's ETH is probably the big winner here, I think the L2s, where like we just had, talking RWAs, like where they're building, I think makes a lot of sense as people start looking at, if like what I said earlier, in this ETF attracts more VC money to the space. It attracts more builders who aren't crypto native to the space because now they understand, there's this global decentralized supercomputer I want to build on. Will some build on mainnet? Sure. That's the stance of DC Investor and others, that the RWAs will be on ETH mainnet, will be the primary chain. I think a lot of them are going to find their way to ETH L2s, and I'm going to look to make my bets accordingly.
For those who don't know, when you're talking about a token generation event, a TGE, when you're talking about TVL, total volume lock, can you explain or educate our audience on what that means? Because some people may not be aware of a TGE, a token generation event, a TVL, total volume locked, and what those things mean.
Yeah, so total value locked is just right now. It depends on what metric you look at. There's some. It was actually NFT stats. I think the number is somewhere between 2 and 3 billion, which I get. That is an extremely large range. But why it's so large is what are you counting? Some people are like the lower market's only counting USD and ETH that's on Blast, so that's a little over 2 billion. If you count all the value of all the assets on chain, it's upwards of 3 billion. So TVL, total value locked, is just the collective value of assets on particular chain. TGE, token generation event, is when the Blast token will be generated, when the Blast token will go live. It was supposed to happen here in May, got delayed till June 26th, I believe. So we're a little over a month out. There's still 2 big tranches of gold to be distributed leading up to that event. And presumably on the 26th, if they hit that date, anyone that's accumulated points on Blast, as well as anyone that's accumulated gold on Blast, will be converting that into the Blast token. I'm very confident we'll see some sort of mechanic where you'll be incentivized to stake or lock up your tokens, or I think it was Machu talked about maybe he drops a VE token, which is like a voting mechanism. It's a way to, the longer you lock up your tokens, the more voting power you have. So you could choose like maybe a 3-month lockup, and you're going to get, maybe your votes will be 2x the amount of tokens that you have. Whereas if you commit to locking up your tokens for 3 years, you might get 10x the amount of votes versus tokens you have. That's kind of like BinDAO is the one I'm familiar with. There's several, but BinDAO is just the one I'm personally familiar with that did a VE token when they did their TGE. And I just went in blind back then. I didn't even know what I was doing. I chose to lock up some BinDAO token for a long duration, just because I decided not to floor it and not just to liquidate the tokens at launch. And so I think we'll see that, probably some more. But yeah, the TGE is simply that's when the Blast token will go live, and some of that will be immediately available and immediately able to be traded. A big chunk of it, probably over 50%, will likely not be available at launch, rather be vested. Some will go to the team, some will go to the community. But yeah, I should know the exact numbers like that Blur did, but I'm guessing it'll be similar distro to that in terms of the percentage that goes to the community, to the farmers, to the to the team, to the devs, etc. The other thing I think is worth noting here, Steve, is while I expect the teams to get to be rewarded with this TGE as well. The culture that has been set on Blast by Blast, and then it's followed through to some of the dApps, Fantasy Top in particular, is that they want these teams, they want the devs to pass along those rewards to the end users. This is relatively new. I was talking with someone in the chat yesterday that's got a project on Polygon, and we started with talking about Zed, and I was like, dude, I don't know why you got like what you have right now. It's like, this is perfect for something like Blast because you have existing daily active users. I don't see a scenario where you migrate your project from Polygon to Blast. I don't see you not picking up new users. Are some of those users just going to be farmers? Yeah, absolutely. But if you double your user base and you retain 20% of the new users, you just grew your user base by 20%. Like, and oh, by the way, your existing loyal users, they're going to get rewarded. Like, maybe it's not thousands of dollars, but if you migrate and you got 5,000 daily active users, and each of them, ends up getting $1,000 extra rewards for playing on this new chain. Well, you just created $5 million that didn't cost you a thing other than the time and dev work to migrate over. We need to get someone on here. We probably should get Wolfgame on here that's actually done it. If I forget, remind me. We'll reach out to G-Funk and see if we can coordinate that. And maybe it's just G-Funk can talk us through the technical, what it really takes to go from, another L2 to Blast. The culture where it's like, hey, pass these rewards along to your users, I think is a really important meta shift that I don't think we've really talked about too much. Like, Fantasy Top put the pressure on when their heroes got their rewards, anywhere from 0.5 ETH up to 6-7 ETH. They were incentivized to share those rewards with their card holders. If they shared 100%, they got a bigger reward in terms of more cards, more packs, more fantasy points, more stars than if they shared 0. If they shared 50% of their ETH rewards, they got a little larger reward than if they shared 0, but not nearly as much as they shared. So not only are they asking the devs to pass along to the end users, you now have the devs that are asking their players, at least in the case of Fantasy Top, to do the same, and not just asking, they're incentivizing them to do it. I think this is a pretty potentially material shift in this space, when it's one that we talk about how different this is from 2021. This ethos, building in public and sharing the rewards with your early supporters and your builders and your community, it was the ethos. I don't, outside of a few, many NFT projects failed to do that. Many were very extractive, and it ultimately led to a lot of the poor reputation that many have today. This feels different. This feels like projects are getting built, brands are starting in this culture where it's like, hey, yeah, we'll help you. We'll give you $3 million in the form of gold, but it comes with the condition that you have to pass that $3 million along to your user base. So in the case of like a Blaze, they decided to use it as their go-to-market launch strategy. They're basically, they use their gold allocation as their go-to-market launch budget. It's like why others haven't. I'm actually struggling to comprehend why we haven't seen a flood of these. I don't want to say floundering projects, because they're not all floundering. Some do have a loyal base of users. It's just the market is so small. We're fighting for a lot of these users, and right now, a lot of the people, a lot of the value locked up. It's on Blast. And then you throw in the third-party incentives on top of it. It's a head scratcher to me why we've only seen Wolfgame so far.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. And the other thing, I'm going to ask a personal question, then you can throw it over to Beardo after that. The Pew. Okay, so I saw the influencers who are much cooler than me tweeting about it over the weekend, a few days ago. I went to try and buy on Uniswap, and it just said no liquidity available. I'm going to sound like a noob with Pew, but I would have hit both jackpots based on what I was looking for. How the hell do I even buy? I couldn't buy it on Uniswap. That's where I've traditionally looked for like Blast tokens and other things. Like, where am I going if next time there is a bunch of influencers talking about a big drop? Because Pew was something I was looking at very, very early, and then I couldn't buy it, and then I just gave up on it, and then it won the jackpot twice. So I literally cost myself money.
So the only reason, like, normally Uniswap you should be able to buy any. You just make sure you change to Blast. You should be able to buy any token just like you would on mainnet. Thruster is another one you can use, especially if you're not in the United States or you like to vacation to the Bahamas every once in a while. But Uniswap will work fine. Now, what happened with Pew is the team just made a strategic decision. Why, I don't know. They did their pre-sale. They had their their claim, which also was a refund for anyone that participated in the pre-sale. It was oversubscribed, and so they refunded like 90% of the ETH, and you only got a portion of the pew that you thought you were buying. Well, I guess you knew that it was oversubscribed, so I shouldn't say it that way. Anyways, then they, instead of like normally when that happens, like, hey, pre-sale's live, everyone here's your claim, trading's live. For whatever reason, the trading didn't go live for like till 69 hours later. So people talking about it over the weekend were talking about the pre-sale. The trading didn't actually go live until yesterday morning, maybe the day before. And then yesterday was when it hit the jackpot twice. So it was just, for whatever reason, it was a delay. They decided to delay trading, so you just couldn't purchase it anywhere. You couldn't trade it, even if you did your claim or you were in the pre-sale and you claimed it. You couldn't sell it until they flipped the switch on. But today, you should be able to buy it Uniswap or any DEX that's on Blast.
Got it. All right. Well, down horrendously, Beardo, get in here.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, I mean, I don't really know too many communities on Blast, but I do know a number of communities there on Polygon, and I mean, kind of the common theme that I've been hearing for a very long time from all of them is like there's no support from Polygon, which is interesting because like at most of the other chains, with like, you know, a few exceptions, like there is support. There's Solana hacker houses. You're talking about Blast giving out these incentives. Like I feel like Polygon is really primed to be kind of vultured by you know, these other chains like Blast, especially if they're giving out those huge incentives. Just they do have strong communities a lot of the time that have been around for quite a while. They're really low in the buy-in, so their communities are going to really appreciate, like, you know, you give them a few bucks, that's, you know, most of what they probably paid to get into the project. So I mean, maybe this is the start of kind of like a switch over to, you know, people just moving off of Blast or moving off of Polygon there, just because it's, I don't know, it's around and, you know, everybody knows about it, but it's just never really taken off like it kind of should have, maybe.
Well, my thesis is I think it did take off. They attracted a lot of big brands, but this is what I'm trying to drive home is the massive polarizing difference in cultures that the blockchains created. Polygon, incredible biz dev team, attracted some of the biggest brands in the world. They gave those big brands big checks, 7-figure checks, and paid for their development costs. Awesome, makes sense. It attracts the big brands, but then they stopped. Then there was no native reward for the users. They just left it on the brands. So like, yeah, Zed dropped a token, but there was no, you never, at least in the time I've been playing Zed, there was never an opportunity to be rewarded with any Matic, you know, the native token of Polygon. Like that is a Polygon attracted these big brands because they gave them big checks and they had a good team. Like it's more than just the money they cut these big brands. The major polarizing difference we're seeing with Blast, Pac-Man's attracting brands, maybe not the big brands. They're attracting crypto brands, Web3 native brands. And instead of saying, hey, we'll give you 7 figures, we'll pay for your dev costs to build out our L2, instead of saying, hey, here's 7 figures to pad your executive team bonuses this quarter, they're saying, we'll give you the 7-figure check, but you have to pass it along, or we strongly encourage you to pass it along to your end users. This is new. We haven't yet seen this to this level. I know there's been some others do it. I just think that the execution that we're seeing from Blast and the you know, the attention mindshare they've captured, it's unlike anything we've seen in the past. And it is, I feel, the polar opposite of incentive programs or acquisition programs. I don't know what you want to call it, but like, I think there's a chance that on average, Polygon and Blast are spending about the same for these brands. And you could say, well, Polygon's even attracting bigger brands. The difference is none of the Polygon funding is making its way to the end user, whereas the majority, if not all of it, is making its way to the end user on Blast.
Well, I mean, that's huge in this space, right? Because, I mean, community is everything with projects.
It's about distribution and incentive structures. I think that your point being like, you know, like one of the things you keep coming back to, which I think is super interesting, Cap, is like the idea that, yeah, like these teams, I'm looking at the War Room and responding to something. These people who are playing, these teams that are building things, and the people who are actually using the products, like getting an incentive structure that aligns to both of them makes sense, because like you look at like it's and like, again, I don't think like the Blast rush can happen forever, but I think similar to the NFT bubble of 2021, which I know this is obviously not of that magnitude, but similar, or kind of is, depending on how you look at volume and things. Similar to the NFT bubble, like, no, all of that wasn't sustainable. Does it mean there's not anything there? No. And it's one of the reasons why I'm not one to throw away the baby with the bathwater, even in areas where I don't participate. Like, I'm curious to, I'm curious to see what comes out of this as far as the incentive structures go, because to your point, like, they incentivize builders to come on because they're giving them free marketing. They have attention. They have the jackpot. They give you a reason to soft stake and lock assets up. Okay, so if you're a builder, you're like, that's cool for me. They're like, hey, builders, here's a bunch of gold. Give it to your community. So now the builders are like, okay, cool. We're incentivized to give this to our community, and our community is incentivized to come on here and use this product. So now you're saying you're trickling things down to the community. And on top of that, anyone using the platform has the opportunity to participate in all those winnings across the board. Like, I think the thing that it adds is it adds an extra incentive and structure, and not just like a TGE, a token generation event to Cap's point, where it's like Zed dropped the Zed token. Now what? Like, all we talked about constantly was like with ApeCoin. I used ApeCoin as an example. When ApeCoin was dropped, my inclination, without looking at the regulatory environment, because I know there's other things that they're probably paying attention to, was that if you're Bored Ape Yacht Club, why would you not have a sync planned every single month, even a small one, doing like, seasonal marketing, being like, it's coming up on Thanksgiving. Let's do an ApeCoin donation thing because people do it around Thanksgiving. You're coming up on, Christmas. We're going to have, and holidays and Hanukkah and all the different, holidays where you traditionally give gifts. Let's have a package of, holiday, a holiday drop. It doesn't need to be holiday themed. Yeah, there could be like a Bored Ape Ugly sweater in there, but it could be like, different, like, collaborate with a different artist. It can be something small, like a digital item that you want to collect. It can be, Ape Fest tickets in this, all these different things. And we're saying like, but the amount of work that puts on the team versus just saying, instead of dropping a token, we're giving you the token to drop. You do it how you see fit and how it makes sense. You do your distributions as it makes sense. It takes less work off the team. And I think, to me, that's the unlock that I hear Cap saying, is that it's not just, and we said on the show before, it's not just here's a grant to build, here's devs to help you build, now build on our blockchain and help promote us. It's, you have a token generation event without even having to participate in a token generation event. Don't worry about the regulatory issues. Don't worry about making a bunch of syncs. Don't worry about working on utility. Don't worry about trying to figure out how you're going to distribute like that token based on like holdings of NFTs and things like that. Just drop it as you see fit. Take a lot of the work out of the equation, and then that turns into our native token on our.
And oh, by the way, if you want to drop your own token, you can still do that, and your users are effectively double dipping on their rewards. Like, it's just, I don't see why. Again, I'm really struggling to understand why we haven't seen more make this move. Maybe it is just far more difficult, technically speaking, than I'm letting on. I don't know. We need to find out, because if it's copy and pasting code and building a front end, like, and you're talking a couple weeks sprint for your devs, I don't know as if there's anything more. Like, there's nowhere else they're going to get handed there's startups they're getting handed 30,000 gold. Like, they're just like, I can't wait. Maybe this is it, Steve. It's just that Wolfgame has not, it's not been disclosed the amount of gold that they got for moving over. I'm near certain they're going to get a giant bag of gold. And when they do, maybe then we'll see the mass migration. It's just going to have to happen fast, because I feel it's probably much more lucrative to do so now than it will be post TGE. I don't think it's too late, because there's still more gold coming. But after TGE, it's just not like, it might be 3,000 gold instead of 30,000 if I'm making up numbers, but I do expect it to be a different landscape.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like the landscape will change. And right now we have this, and I think this is where the bubbly part comes in, but maybe there's something there. Is I said this, on a tweet that, again, gets no attention, because when you have critiques of Blast, those tend to go very under the radar, because people are like, well, I'm not interested in hearing that argument. Get out. But like, I actually think it's a good thing if the Blast gold value goes down, which sounds crazy, but I think as they sort of like, what I'm worried about to some degree is I don't want the things we're talking about to become too under the radar, obsolete, not working, etc. Like, I don't want those things to become things that are seen as just this flash in the pan fad, like we saw with a lot of, NFTs are a fad, NFTs are Beanie Babies. It's like, what are you, like, you're comparing software to a thing that has freaking like beads in it, to a stuffed animal with beads in it. Like, these are very different products. But it happened because of the over financialization, which a lot of people did very well on. We did well on this stage, right? Like, not that we're rich people, but we got an ApeCoin drop, and that didn't make me rich, but it allowed me the opportunity to take a better, more calculated shot at my dream when I was writing the book and looking for a job and things like that. And that to me is as valuable as anything that happens, right? Like, and so that ApeCoin drop was huge for me. But like, at the same time, that over financialization caused this swing the other way. And what I get scared about is that Blast is just cooking, but it can't be up only forever. And so those.
I'm not saying that. I don't. I think it comes down to the expectation they set. I don't think it's like. I don't think this makes Wolfgame forever. This isn't some silver bullet that's sustainable. What it is it's you got to view it as almost like a marketing spend that you don't have to spend. You got zero cost for anywhere from $10,000 to $30 million of a marketing budget you get to spend. You still got to build something sustainable. You still got to build a fun game. But my thesis here is that if you have a halfway decent product, you're gonna pick up some incremental users. Are a lot of them going to be farmers and they're going to flip in and out of your project? Yes, but I think it's not a silver bullet that if you switch to Blast or you build on Blast, you're set up for life. It's right now there's this massive marketing budget. Go get your piece of the pie and give it to your users. Some of them you may get some more loyalty out of. In other cases, you may pick up new users that had I'm going to play Wolfgame because it's on Blast. I wasn't playing otherwise. IKB is a DFS product I did not know about. I found out about it because it's on Blast. And now I'm going to be shifting most of my NFL play over to this on-chain DFS that I would have had no idea existed had they not launched on Blast. That is my overarching point is I'm not going to be expecting to be getting tons of gold or I know it's not going to be nearly as much as I am right now come football season. But that's okay because the odds are the rewards I'm getting for playing on-chain are still likely greater than what I would get from DraftKings or FanDuel.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's a good point. I just want to make like what I don't. Well, I guess what I'm saying is what I'm worried about is more, and maybe this is not, maybe this is like over, worried a little too much. But like, what I just don't want is I don't want people to be like, oh, you know what, like, this was just a big flash in the pan fad when like there's some sort of incentive structure here that's interesting. It's just it can't last and make people tons of money forever. But the early ones, they're gonna do well. Sorry, go ahead, Gap.
And I don't want to put Riggs on the spot. He's probably working out and has a busy day. But he mentioned like he feels the jackpot mechanic's terrible for most of these meme coins for any sort of sustainability. And I like it's the same argument I would push back. I'm curious for his side of it. We'll catch up later because again, it's not a forever thing. It's like what does a meme coin need to win? What does a meme coin need to get out of the starting gates? They need attention. This is like you're able to capture attention by leveraging someone else's incentive program. Like it's not that the jackpot is going to make PacMoon or Pew Pew like they're going to. That doesn't guarantee them long-term sustainable success as a meme coin, but it gets them out of the starting gates and it gets the community something to get excited about. And I think we're going to start seeing the sell-offs that we had seen historically. I mean, we already saw it just yesterday with Pew Pew or Pew. I think we start seeing less and less of that. And it's, is it natural to see some sort of a retrace or pullback after one of these hits a jackpot? Yeah, I guess, because you can say some of it's baked in, but if it goes from a $7 million market cap to a $70 million market cap, and then the jackpot's over, I don't think it goes back to a 7. Like I think this is a way for startups to level up and use resources that would cost them 6 or 7 or 8 figures if they were doing it on their own.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's a really good and fair point as far as like, and again, I think like that's where it's like there's this thing where it's like we talk about the like what's the cool part about being in this space right now, and I know we're kind of like getting ready to wrap, so maybe we pull it down to this and then we kind of finish out and hit any other headlines if there's anything to hit as we're closing out. But like, I think what I think about with this whole thing is that like, it's so cool to be here when all of these things are happening because we even in 3 years have seen like what OpenSea looked like a 1995 website when I got in here 3 years ago. And now you see like, the fact that in 3 years, OpenSea has essentially been lapped by a marketplace that's coming out with mobile wallets and having you trade everything on there. And, you know, like the things that you see on Magic Eden and Blur, and you have these all of the Mintify, all these marketplaces that are doing these crazy things. And that is in 3 years. In 3 years, we have gone from OpenSea, an art marketplace, hard to navigate, didn't make a lot of sense. You know, people at the you know, Business Insider trading, to, you know, Magic Eden doing big, huge raises, Blur and, you know, turning into then ultimately turning into Blast to some degree, because they made Blur and they moved into Blast and created this whole blockchain. And it's like the things we've seen in 3 years are crazy. And so when we see what Blast looks like now, this is not the final form. And while I have critiques on some of the mechanics and some of the products on there and whatever, I think what Cap does really a good job of on this space and balances out really nice is that I don't turn into Scrooge shaking my fist up at the sky. I'm more saying, let's look at like what the positive incentive structure is here. Let's take what we can learn from it, and then let's move and say, this is a loyalty program for a blockchain. Is it perfect and going to work exactly this way forever? Maybe not, but there's a there, and it's incentivizing users because there's money to be made right now, but there will be something that applies outside of this space, because you can't look at something like this and say this is just a shameless Ponzi, or it's a shameless Ponzi and we'll find out later on, but I don't think that's the case. And so I do think that, you know, this isn't the final form, and sometimes it's the reason why when I put up that poll in 3 years, will Fantasy Top be a project that, or be a platform that has mass amounts of users? And I kept it intentionally vague because like it's hard to know because there's so many different catalysts. Like I didn't want to say like 1 million users or whatever the number is, and then like we don't have mass adoption, but it's still regularly used within this space, and I would consider that successful. Or, you know, we have this mass adoption and 1 million people use it, but that's still a drop in the bucket and they're losing money. Like I didn't know what that looked like, but is this a viable product in 3 years? And the reason why I asked it that way is I'm thinking 3 years ago, you know, we would have told you that like Gutter Cat Gang was going to be a thriving international business that has like this club, and it has a basketball club, and it has streetwear, and it's people going to events. And it just didn't play out that way quite as much. Not they're not still trying. We've had Noah on the show, and they're putting some things together, and they're trying to like turn things around. We had SK earlier on talking about Lazy Lions is another example. But the idea that like in 3 years, so much can change. And so like, I try to do my best when we're looking at these things to say, what is a low effort cash grab? And what are people trying to actually build, whether it's to make money? And if they're just building it to make money, even if that's the case, what can we learn from it for the future? And I just think, well, Blast is not a thing that's some flash in the pan, you know, it's not like a PFP project that's just low effort releasing art. It's trying to do some novel stuff. Whether it's successful or not, I don't know. But I do think it's an interesting discussion to have as we look and think about how much can change in a short period of time. But in any case, apparently Noah already exited Gutter. I didn't even know that. Riggs is like, did you know that Noah was no longer involved and already exited Gutter? No idea. Didn't know that. So that just shows how much I've kept up with the Gutter Cat Gang. So no idea. I thought that he was still running the ship there. So, but it shows how the mighty have fallen. Gutter Cat Gangs was over a 10 ETH floor at one point. I got shit when I sold it at a loss at like 1 ETH, and here we are. So anyway, all that said, Cap, any parting thoughts before we close this sucker down right about on time?
Oh, you mentioned Raise. I'll close that down with that. Is we missed, missed a big one.
We missed a huge one. Sorry, go ahead. That's crazy.
We have another Web3 native unicorn. Farcaster raised $150 million Series A and put them at the $1 billion valuation. So congrats to Dan and everyone over there. I'll be honest, I attempted to participate. It was actually probably Farcaster and Blast around the same time. Blast kept my attention where Farcaster did not. It was like, it felt very, very forced, and to where it ultimately fell out of my daily routine after attempting to force it in. And in that time I was spending there has all shifted over to Blast. But I love the effort. I love what they're doing. And $150 million, Steve, gives them quite a bit of runway to keep swinging at X and the other social giants.
Love it. No, it's awesome. Like and again, like I've been on Farcaster since early. And I've not once casted. I don't even know what you say over there, but I need to start doing that. And I'm going to start doing that. I think June is a demarcation point for me when we're going to go to consensus. We're going to get some content. I have some ideas about some things that I'm going to set up. And from then on, it's going to be like, I'm so excited for Faucet On. I tweeted this yesterday and I mean it like very sincerely. This wasn't just some like shill tweet. Gary Vaynerchuk's book came in the mail yesterday, and I looked at Ms. NFT Bark. I'm like, we're both reading and or listening to this book. Period. Point blank. End of story. Because right now we are working on spinning up some content channels I've been working up. It's been taking me longer than expected because I had to get some things in order at home personally. I had to get some things in order with my work. I had to make sure I was set up to pay my mortgage and my house and all that other good stuff. And, you know, my cars, and we're looking at getting another car and all these different things that were like sort of life has been getting in the way of content creation. Because what you learn in this space is when you I was creating a bunch of content and then I started working full time in this space and I couldn't do it exactly the same way. Couldn't do space, etc. Now I'm trying to set myself back up into that content wheel, which I'm a big fan of. So as I get that going, we'll see what happens. But the Gary Vaynerchuk book couldn't have come at a better time. Day Trading Attention, and we're definitely going to binge that sucker. Maybe I'll download the audio as well to support and listen to it on the plane on the way to Austin or whatever, and try to get some things done, Cap. But I don't know if you picked it up, but for what we're working on and the stuff we're doing, and the last thing I'll say, actually, one last parting thought, Cap, I want to get your take on is, and this is like a talk for offline, this is Cap and Steve text, but in IRL, we should, what Jen and Min and OG and all these different creators and you know, TG and what he's doing with FaZe Banks has made me think about is feel like I am being pushed to think about better content than just reporting the news, than just doing a video. And I'm really trying to think, similar to what you were saying about consensus. I started having these ideas about like ways that I can play different types of content that actually potentially is more entertaining and infotainment, not stuff that is just simply. So I'm trying to wrap my head around what those things are and bring myself to those. I don't know what they are, but I've been trying to think about it a lot lately because I feel like seeing really good quality content is making me want to raise the bar for things that I do and add in that sort of entertainment value that I tend to like not do as much because a lot of the stuff I do is education based, but how do I turn to infotainment? So I'll throw to you, Captain.
Yep,
Go any direction you want.
I'm going the same, having the same mental thoughts right now is exact same thing as I've been inspired to level up my game and beyond just the show. What else can I do? And you know what? It's like, it's seeing the Jens and the Clementes they've had tremendous come up, Steve, because you know why? They did more than just spaces. Like, yeah, social audio is great. It's going to be at the core. And I truly love it. But I've realized too, that like, I don't tweet nearly enough stuff that I talk about. And I could, like, I do the hard work to put the research in and gain the knowledge. It's a little extra effort to put out more content in different formats. And I think the upside is tremendous. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so it's something that I think like we need to like be doing, but I'm going to be reading the Gary Vaynerchuk book, assigning it to Mrs. NFT Bark, who is my chief of staff, who works on a lot of my content stuff as we're starting to load things up. So that is definitely something that we got to be thinking about. So all that said, 10:01, good show this morning. Hitting the 10 o'clock hour on the dot. Appreciate everyone who came by. Loved having Teacher and Joey Vowles on the stage together, to be honest. Like that was a very cool thing because they're both working in a similar space. And I really think, even though they are sort of competing RWA platforms where, you know, Teacher and them, they signed with Courtyard. They're doing obviously the VeeFriends compete and collect. You know, they haven't, you know, done the same thing sort of on Colony. I can't remember. I think they have some VeeFriends cards, but like they have, you know, all over the place. But point being, like having, you know, someone with Courtyard and someone with Colony having that discussion and potentially seeing some synergies there, because I know, you know, they do pack breaks and they do all this fun content and they're whimsical. They're very much in the space. Like maybe there'll be some synergies there that we'll be able to create on this stage. And that would be really cool. We've seen that before where we've had multiple people say, they've met people they've done business with on stage. So I just think that there's really some cool opportunities there. So all that said, Cap, we'll let everybody sail off into their day. I got some work to do. I may sneak over to the Tesla dealership today. I am starting to lean Model Y a little bit. We'll see what happens, but appreciate everyone coming by this morning. We will talk to you bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody.